The 2018 PlayStation Classic, December 3rd, 2018. Now, let's just go ahead and go over the list of games, because the games on here are good, like very good. It's a pretty good selection, but there's some very obvious omissions that will become quite evident as soon as I start listing games. Okay, so first things first, there is no games, I repeat, because this all goes in alphabetical order, no games from A. There is no Ape Escape. There is no Armored Core. Nothing that starts with an A is featured here. But we go to B, Battle Arena Toshinden. Well, what else? That's it. No. Think of any amazing game that starts with a B for the PlayStation 1. It's not here. Let's go down to C. Cool Borders 2 and Destruction Derby. Yup. No Crash Bandicoot. We go down to F. We have Final Fantasy 7. Thank goodness, but no 8 or 9, which... okay. Grand Theft Auto 1, okay, good, but again, still no other games that start with G or anything in between there, no E's. Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid, okay. Mr. Driller, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, okay, good. Parasite Eve was unfortunately only in Japan, so, you know, we didn't get that on our PlayStation Classic, but, you know. Ridge Racer Type 4, okay. Rayman, yeah. Resident Evil Director's Cut, thank God they didn't do the DualShock version. Whatever that music was in the kitchen, dude, it was terrible. Revelations Persona from Atlas, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal, Wild Arms. Like, okay, the list ends off with a bang, but again, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot. What about any of the other 3D platformers of the day? Where's my Gex? Where's my Croc? Gran Turismo? Like, Sony's flagship racing game? Like, let me just go through this again. Yeah, there was literally no Gran Turismo. Like, come on now. That is one of the best games on the PlayStation 1. Where is it? Resident Evil 2? Resident Evil 3? Not here. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? I know there's licensing things, but still. What about Soul Reaver? Silent Hill? Castlevania? Symphony of the Night? If Nintendo could pull off some of these things, why can't PlayStation? Dino Crisis? Breath of Fire? Like, come on now. But this, unfortunately, is not the worst part. Okay, so, oh my gosh, I can't believe they messed this up this bad. The PlayStation Classic, for those that don't know back in the day, okay, there was a distinct difference between US games and PAL games, and that was the fact that EU TVs, or PAL TVs, ran at 50 Hz, aka 50 frames per second, and that was a hard cap. And when it came to American TVs, they ran at 60 Hz as they always have, you know, 60 FPS. And if you don't know anything about Hertz or frame rates or anything like that, you might hear like, oh, 50 FPS, 50 Hz, whatever, like that still sounds good, right? Yeah, but no, there's this thing. When you're running a game on a certain display, this goes to resolutions and frame rates for the best possible, most fluent, and most responsive experience. I'm not saying you're going to have a bad experience or that's going to be inherently terrible if you don't do it this way. When it comes to resolutions, you typically want to have it being within a multiplier of sorts, right? Like if you're going to play a 240p TV or a 240p game, you'd probably get the best looking, you definitely get like the best looking experience playing it on a 720p TV versus playing it on 1080p. Likewise, okay, here's actually more of a modern example that really applies. You know how there's like 40 FPS modes in games? You typically don't want to use those on a 60 Hz display, and it's better to use those on a 120 Hz display because it's actually going to feel smoother and more responsive overall on the 120 Hz than it would on the 60 Hz. And that's not even just because, oh, bigger Hertz, bigger number. It's just because that 40 FPS divides evenly into the Hertz. But here, 50 Hz to 60 Hz, you can't make 50 divide evenly into 60, which meant that not only was the frame rate lower, but the overall responsiveness and feeling of the game just wasn't right. It was running slower in some instances, and in some cases where games were actually tied to their frame rates in terms of the ways that certain things responded in game, whether that be physics, overall game speed, mechanics in the game, it could literally break some games. And it's not like this thing couldn't, handle running the PS1 games at the full 60 Hz, so it's not like they chose this just because of sheer performance. I guess they just chose it for some reason. I honestly have no idea. In terms of the specs, I mean, we're looking at a quad-core ARM Cortex A35 for the CPU. In terms of the memory, 1GB of DDR3 RAM. In terms of the graphics, we have a PowerVR GE8300, which honestly, I've never heard of that. Maybe they would have been better off going for like a Mali GPU, but I mean, even then, it clearly was able to run the games. If you're already pushing 50 FPS, it's not going to take that much more power to push it to 60, so they either could have just went with the American copies of games, which they should have to begin with, or maybe beefed up the power inside of it. I'm really not not sure like what the reason was for this, but that was the reason why this console was so bad, because it's not even like a thing of like, oh, you know, people are just being dramatic, 50 hertz instead of 60, boo-hoo, the games run at 10 FPS lower. It's not even that. It's the fact that it would literally just like break some games and make them play in a way that was just not intended to be played, or make them unresponsive to a way that was actually a hindrance on the gameplay, or just give you the not intended experience. Overall, I feel like the PlayStation Classic was one of the many nails in the coffin for the whole mini console thing, because after the PlayStation Classic, things really slowed down after that.